You know that moment when your stomach drops, your face burns, and you realize, too late, that you've just made a mistake you can't undo? That was me last Tuesday. And all it took was one tiny detail. I forgot to mute my mic during a very important work meeting. The morning had started like any other. Coffee in hand, laptop balanced on the edge of my desk, and a silent prayer that the Wi-Fi gods would be merciful. I work in a mid-sized company, big enough to feel corporate, small enough that everyone still knows each other's quirks. And Tuesday mornings meant one thing: the weekly team update with the department heads. In other words, the one meeting you don't want to screw up. I logged in a couple of minutes early, camera off, mic muted, or so I thought. The Brady Bunch grid of faces popped up one by one: Karen from HR with her perpetually cheerful smile, Daniel from IT looking like he hadn't slept in 3 days, and of course, my boss, Mr. Holloway, perfectly framed in his spotless office like he was about to shoot a commercial for leadership itself. "Good morning, everyone," he said, his voice deep, commanding, the kind that makes people sit up straighter even through a screen. "Let's get started." The agenda was standard: sales numbers, project updates, and then an open forum for feedback. Boring, but manageable. The kind of meeting where you can sip coffee, nod at the right times, and escape unscathed. Except, I had no idea my mic was hot. It started small. I mumbled something to myself while scrolling through emails, a little sarcastic comment about Karen's relentless optimism. Then, when Daniel's report dragged on for what felt like an eternity, I muttered, "God, someone please give this man a pillow." Still, no one reacted. No raised eyebrows. No chuckles. So I assumed, thankfully, that my mic was muted. And then it happened. The moment that shattered my professional dignity. Karen started presenting her new HR initiative about mandatory fun, team-building exercises scheduled during work hours. I don't know what possessed me, maybe the caffeine, maybe the sheer absurdity of the phrase, but I leaned back in my chair and said, loud enough for my cat to jump off the desk, "Mandatory fun? More like mandatory torture. Who comes up with this crap?" Silence. Not the normal meeting silence, either. This was different. Heavy. Awkward. Like the whole call had collectively frozen. And that's when I noticed it. The tiny glowing red light on my screen. My mic was on. My stomach clenched so hard it felt like I'd swallowed a brick. The glowing red mic icon burned on my screen, taunting me, daring me to move. Nobody said anything at first. Not Karen, not Daniel, not even Mr. Holloway. The silence stretched, thick and unbearable, every second a reminder that yes, they had heard everything. Then Karen gave this little half-laugh, the kind you make when you're pretending not to be hurt but your eyes betray you. Her smile flickered like a faulty light bulb before she smoothed it back into place. "Well," she said, voice tight, "thank you for your honesty." Daniel suddenly found something fascinating off-screen to stare at. Someone else's camera shut off entirely. And then, finally, Mr. Holloway cleared his throat, the sound sharp enough to make me flinch. "Moving on," he said, slow and deliberate, like each word was a stone he was setting in place. His jaw was tight, his expression unreadable. But his eyes were locked on me, and I swear I saw a flicker of disappointment. I scrambled for the mute button, clicking it so hard my mouse nearly flew off the desk. Then, as if my brain was desperate to make things worse, I whispered to myself, "Oh no, 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 I'm so screwed." And of course, I wasn't muted yet. That earned me a couple of muffled chuckles. But they weren't friendly laughs. They were sharp, the kind of laughs people make when they're glad it isn't them in the hot seat. I felt my face heat up. My palms were slick against the desk. I considered just leaving the meeting altogether, faking a technical glitch. But leaving would only confirm what everyone already knew. I had just called Karen's entire project crap to her face. And the worst part? Her presentation wasn't over. She still had 5 more slides to go. So I sat there, trapped in digital purgatory, watching Karen soldier on with her mandatory fun initiative while I prayed the ground would open up and swallow me whole. But then, things got even worse. Because just when I thought I couldn't humiliate myself any further, Mr. Holloway unmuted me. The little notification popped up, "You have been unmuted by the host." My heart sank straight through the floor. Would you care to elaborate on your comment? Mr. Holloway's voice was calm, but it had that dangerous edge. The kind of calm that comes before a storm. Every eye in the digital grid turned to me. Tiny glowing rectangles of silent judgment. I froze, my face reflected back at me in the cruel rectangle of my webcam, pale and wide-eyed like a deer on a highway. My throat went dry. I coughed, tried to laugh, but it came out sounding like a dying car engine. I think what I meant was, Karen's face was still plastered with that tight smile, but her eyes? They were daggers. I could have lied. I could have said I was talking to my cat. I could have said I was reading something out loud. I could have said anything. But no. My panicked brain chose betrayal. I was joking. I croaked, the upward tilt in my voice making it sound more like a question than a statement. Dead silence again. Mr. Holloway leaned back in his chair, his fingers steepled like some judge waiting to deliver a sentence. Joking, he repeated. He didn't laugh. Nobody laughed. The only sound was the faint hum of someone's ceiling fan through their mic. Karen cleared her throat, her voice sugary but brittle. Well, humor is subjective. I nodded frantically, my face burning hotter than the coffee mug I was gripping like a lifeline. Why don't we give you the floor, then? Holloway said suddenly. Since you have strong feelings about this initiative, perhaps you'd like to offer some constructive feedback. My mouth went dry. Constructive feedback? On something I just called mandatory torture? This was a trap, a guillotine disguised as an invitation. But there was no escape. The little red border around my box glowed like a spotlight. So I opened my mouth, and instantly regretted it. My brain scrambled for words, anything that didn't sound like, Karen's idea is garbage. I forced a smile that looked more like a grimace. Well, what I meant was, sometimes people feel overwhelmed with extra activities during work hours, I stammered. So, maybe, some employees could, feel like it's torture? Yep. I had just repeated the exact word I was trying to avoid. Torture. Karen blinked, her smile tightening even further. I could almost hear her teeth grinding. So, you're saying my program is torture, she said flatly. No. No. I waved my hand so wildly I nearly spilled my coffee. Not yours specifically. Just hypothetically. Like, if someone else, not you, made it. Torture. The chat box on the side of the meeting pinged. I glanced at it. Someone had typed a single skull emoji. Then another. Then a row of them. My coworkers were watching me dig my own grave and handing me the shovel. Mr. Holloway's eyebrows lifted. Do you have a better suggestion, then? My brain screamed shut up, but my mouth, traitorous as ever, said, well, maybe instead of mandatory fun, we could just, I don't know, focus on actually finishing projects on time. The silence was nuclear. Karen's smile vanished completely. Holloway leaned forward, folding his hands on the desk. "So, what you're saying," he said slowly, "is that my approval of this initiative is a waste of company time?" I opened my mouth, but nothing came out. My chest tightened. I could feel the sweat soaking through my shirt. And then, just when I thought the humiliation couldn't get worse, my cat jumped onto the desk, strutted right across my keyboard, and unmuted me again. And everyone heard me mutter, clear as day, "Kill me now." The words slipped out before I could stop them. Kill me now. Clear, crisp, no way to deny it. For a split second, the meeting was silent again. Dead quiet. I thought maybe, just maybe, it would pass, that everyone would politely ignore it and move on. But then Daniel from IT snorted. Just a quick, sharp laugh he tried to cover with a cough. That tiny sound cracked the tension like a hammer to glass. Within seconds, the grid of faces lit up with stifled giggles and smirks. Someone forgot to mute and outright wheezed with laughter. Another typed in the chat, "Mood." Even Mr. Holloway's lips twitched. He didn't laugh, but the corners of his mouth curved up for just a fraction of a second. And that somehow made it worse, like he was trying very hard not to enjoy my downfall. Karen, though. Oh, Karen did not laugh. Her face was stone, eyes narrowed, jaw set. She looked like she was mentally drafting an HR complaint in real time. "I see," she said finally, her tone sharp enough to slice glass. "Well, perhaps not everyone appreciates fun." The laughter died instantly. People straightened up like students caught goofing off in class. My face was on fire, and I wanted nothing more than to slam my laptop shut and throw it out the nearest window. But the nightmare wasn't over. Because right after Karen's icy remark, Holloway leaned in and said, "Actually, I think we should let my name expand on that. If you feel so strongly, tell us, what would you do instead?" It wasn't a question. It was a command. And just like that, the spotlight was back on me. 20 tiny faces waiting, half amused, half bloodthirsty, all expecting me to either redeem myself or completely implode. I swallowed hard, adjusted my mic, and tried to think of anything that wouldn't get me fired on the spot. My mouth went dry, but I forced myself to speak. Okay. Well, instead of mandatory fun, maybe we could try optional productivity breaks. The second the words left my mouth, I knew it sounded ridiculous. Optional productivity breaks? What did that even mean? Holloway raised an eyebrow. Karen tilted her head, like she was watching a toddler try to explain quantum physics. The chat box lit up again, this time with a single word from someone anonymous. What? I panicked and doubled down. Yeah, like, instead of team-building exercises, people could, take breaks in ways that actually help them. Like, nap pods. Or, Netflix breaks. A cough snort escaped from someone's mic. Then a burst of muffled laughter. I kept going, digging deeper. We could even rotate responsibilities. Like, one week someone brings snacks, the next week someone organizes a meme contest, or, my voice trailed off as I realized how insane I sounded. Karen's voice cut in, sharp as a whip. So your big idea is memes? The laughter wasn't muffled anymore. People were laughing openly now. A few cameras even turned off, probably so people could laugh without showing their faces. I wanted the earth to swallow me whole. My idea was collapsing into chaos, and everyone knew it. Holloway cleared his throat, the room snapping silent again. His voice was calm, measured. "Interesting suggestion. I think we'll Table that for now. Yeah, great, I croaked, wishing I could mute myself forever. But the meeting wasn't done with me yet. Because right as I tried to sink into invisibility, Karen smiled that tight, dangerous smile and said, "Well, since you clearly have a lot of thoughts on morale, why don't you join me as co-lead for this initiative?" The chat box exploded. For a moment, I thought I misheard her. Co-lead? Did Karen just invite me to help run the very project I had called mandatory torture? The chat box was already a battlefield of emojis, crying faces, skulls, fire. Someone even typed popcorn.gif. I forced a laugh. Oh, haha. That's very generous, Karen, but I don't think. Mr. Holloway's voice cut through mine like a knife. Actually, I think that's an excellent idea. My blood ran cold. Karen's smile widened, all teeth. Perfect. I'll set up a planning call later this week so we can brainstorm together. I could feel 20 invisible daggers stabbing into my chest from every corner of the meeting. The same people who were laughing at me seconds ago were now delighted to watch me sink deeper into the quicksand. I tried again, desperate. "Sir, with all due respect, my workload is already—" "Nonsense," Holloway interrupted smoothly. "This will be good for you. Builds leadership skills." That was it. My fate was sealed. Karen looked smug, like a cat that had just trapped a mouse in the corner. "Great," she chirped. "I'll send you the slide deck after this meeting." The chat box went wild again. Someone typed RIP. Another wrote pray for him. Daniel from IT simply typed, "Ha ha ha ha." I plastered on a fake smile, nodding like I'd just been given an award instead of a death sentence. My brain screamed, "This is it. Career suicide in real time." And just when I thought things couldn't possibly get worse, Holloway unmuted me again. "Why don't you close us out, my name?" he said. "Share some final thoughts on teamwork." 20 pairs of eyes turned to me. My brain was a desert, dry, empty, and echoing with the sound of panic. Final thoughts on teamwork? That was like asking a drowning man to give a lecture on swimming. I forced a shaky smile, my webcam catching every bead of sweat on my forehead. Teamwork," I began, my voice cracking like a teenager's. "Well, it's, important. Because, without a team, you can't work." The silence was brutal. I could almost hear the collective facepalms behind muted mics. I scrambled. "What I mean is, teamwork is about, honesty. And communication. Like, if someone thinks something is torture, it's probably better to say it politely." A few muffled laughs. Karen's smile was razor-sharp now. I pressed on, rambling like a car rolling downhill with no brakes. "And, sometimes, mistakes happen. Like forgetting to mute your mic. But that's okay because we learn. Together. As a team. And, yeah, go team." The chat box pinged. Someone typed, "Inspirational." Another wrote, 10 out of 10 TED Talk. Holloway's face stayed completely neutral, though I thought I caught the faintest twitch at the corner of his mouth. Finally, he nodded. "Thank you for that colorful contribution." The meeting ended with the dreaded sound of the call ended by host chime. My screen went black, leaving me staring at my own horrified reflection. I had survived, but barely. Or so I thought. Because 5 minutes later, as I sat slumped at my desk, praying for a power outage to erase everyone's memory, an email notification popped up. Subject line, "Excited to collaborate." It was from Karen. And attached was a 47-slide PowerPoint titled, "Team Morale, Making Fun Mandatory." I stared at the email like it was a death sentence. 47 slides? Karen hadn't just prepared a presentation, she had prepared a weapon. With trembling hands, I clicked it open. Bright colors, cartoonish clip art, cheesy stock photos of people high-fiving in boardrooms. Each slide worse than the last. Slide 12, Office Charades. Slide 23, Motivational Karaoke Hour. Slide 38, Synchronized Desk Yoga. And at the very end, in bold letters, presented by Karen and my name. I nearly spit my coffee across the screen. My name was plastered all over this nightmare. A chat notification popped up on Teams. It was Karen. Karen, hey partner, smiling face with smiling eyes, just wanted to get your input before we show this to the leadership team Friday. Friday. As in 3 days away. I typed, deleted, retyped, and finally settled on me. Looks thorough. 3 dots popped up instantly. Karen. Great. I'll set a meeting for tomorrow so we can brainstorm ways to make it even more fun. Bring your ideas. Bring my ideas. The same brain that had just pitched Netflix breaks and memes was now expected to improve a 47-slide monstrosity. The next day, the brainstorm was worse than the meeting itself. Karen had her camera on, smiling like she was hosting a talk show, while I sat there nodding like a hostage. Now, I was thinking, she said, we could kick things off with a trust fall exercise. You'll go first, of course. Sets the tone. We're on Zoom, I muttered. She laughed. We'll improvise. You'll figure it out. You're creative. Every word was another nail in my coffin. By the end of the call, I had been volunteered to lead the motivational icebreaker, co-host the karaoke session, and design a team spirit meme wall. When the meeting ended, I closed my laptop and buried my face in my hands. And that's when I heard the ping of another email. This one wasn't from Karen. It was from Holloway. Subject line, looking forward to your session Friday. Inside was just one line, make sure it's memorable. Friday arrived like a looming execution date. I barely slept the night before, pacing my apartment and muttering to myself like some deranged actor rehearsing for a play nobody wanted to see. By 9 a.m., my inbox was full of cheerful reminders. Can't wait for Team Fun Friday. My coworkers were practically salivating at the chance to watch me crash and burn. At 10 sharp, the call began. Cameras on, smiles wide, Karen in her brightest blazer. She introduced us like we were co-chairs of a global summit. And now, she beamed, my partner, my name, will kick things off with an icebreaker. I swallowed hard and launched into my brilliant idea. 2 truths and a lie. Safe, simple, impossible to mess up. Or so I thought. The first person went. Then the second. Then Daniel from IT. He smirked at his camera and said, Truth, I once hacked my college's Wi-Fi. Truth, I haven't slept more than 4 hours in a week. Lie, my name, thinks this whole thing is fun. The chat exploded. Crying emojis, fire emojis, even Karen's jaw tightened. I tried to laugh it off, but my face was redder than a stop sign. We stumbled into motivational karaoke hour. Karen belted out Don't Stop Believin', like her life depended on it. Then it was my turn. My mic glitched, echoing my nervous off-key warbling back at me like a cruel parody. By the time we hit the meme wall, the chat had devolved into chaos. People were spamming GIFs, editing my face into stock photos, and one genius posted a meme that read, Mandatory fun, brought to you by Torture Guide. Karen tried to salvage it, but even Holloway's camera shook suspiciously, like he was trying not to laugh. When it was finally over, the screen went silent. No applause, no polite claps. Just Holloway's calm voice. Well, that was certainly memorable. Karen forced a grin. Yes, a huge success. And then, mercifully, the call ended. I sat there in my chair, utterly drained. I had survived, but my dignity was in tatters. By Monday, I knew the nickname would stick. Torture guy. My inbox would probably fill with memes. My career might never recover. But hey, at least I'll never, ever forget to mute my mic again.